All right. Good morning, Arizona. Thanks for joining Jonathan and Julie D in the morning. Good morning, Julie.
Grand Rising, Jonathan. Great to see you.
Yeah. How's Kansas City this morning?
It is bright and shiny today, and then we're supposed to hit a high of 67. So I'm very excited for that.
Woohoo. Yeah,
Yay!
that sounds wonderful, actually. I think we're going to be up near 70 today.
Perfect.
We got a lot of things in the news right now. We got President Trump. He is really pushing to get Omar deported.
Oh, yes, please.
And boy, would that be a blessing for this country.
Right? I still can't comprehend how in the world she got to where she is to begin with.
Well,
Yeah. As much
you
as she
know,
hates our country, I just don't comprehend.
well, and when you marry your brother to be able to come into this country,
So
you know
gross.
that
Ugh.
that kind of says a lot.
That says
You know,
a lot of what we don't want here in this country. Hello. Goodness
yeah, it tells
gracious.
you, yeah, it tells you a lot where these people's mind frame is. You
Oh,
know,
sick, sick.
and and if if this is what the Muslims are all about, being able to marry their own sisters and brothers, and it's disgusting. You know, can't even imagine.
No, I can't either. Horrible.
So so this morning we got Donald Trump in the news, where he's
Right.
been fighting to get good old Omar out of the house. And I think this is it right here. Here we go.
They know one thing, and they all have the same thing in common. There's uh, there's drug dust, $37 trillion in debt, et cetera, et cetera. We tariffs are a very important tool for our defense, for our national security. If we don't have tariffs, we're not going to have national security. As an example, if you look at Pakistan and Iran, I told them I was in the midst of negotiating a trade deal with with Iran, and Pakistan was going to be in line. And because of tariffs, they all want to negotiate much differently. We were making a good deal. And then I heard that they're shooting at each other. And I said during one of my conversations, are you guys going to go to war? Two nuclear powers. We are thinking about. I said, here's the deal. You go to war, I'm going to put a 200% tariff. I'm going to stop you from doing any business in the United States. I said it to both of them. Within 24 hours, the war ended. That would have been a nuclear war. And again, the Prime Minister of Pakistan, who was here 2 weeks ago, said that that man saved many millions of lives in front of a whole group of people because he thought it was going to be war. But when it came to war or having to pay massive tariffs, the tariffs overrode. That's why it's so important. Not only the money, we're taking in trillions of dollars, not only the money, the power to keep peace, the power to be used for good is enormous. But a lot of people didn't understand tariffs. It's also made us very rich. We have a big case coming up in the Supreme Court, and I will tell you, that's one of the most important cases in the history of our country. Because if we don't win that case, we will be a weakened, troubled,
Let me see if I can
financial
fast forward
mess
this
for
to where
many,
he
many
really went
years
off
to
about
come. I don't
Omar.
even know if survivable.
And if that weren't enough, when you look at the year, for the entire 7-month period that we're talking about here, if you look at the past 4 years of the Biden administration, 16,000, 17,000, 15,000, 15,000. That's the number of arrests year over year of violent felons in this country for the Biden administration. Mr. President, in 7 months, you have 28,600 arrests of violent felons in just 7 months alone because of your leadership and the dedication of the men and women at the FBI who want to go out there and do the job they were prevented from doing because that department used to be weaponized and politicized. And this is what happens when you take out the fangs of weaponization. This number is historic by every metric. 28,000 people have been arrested, violent felons alone. And then when you go over there and look at some of these charts, if you don't mind, I'll just hop over here. Look at the metrics for not just violent crime, but the homeland.
Julie, here's one of the concerns I have, though.
Okay.
Donald Trump so far, he's gotten between the self deportations and the ones that they've actually captured and
Mhm.
gotten out of this country, it's a little over 1 million.
I heard it was two.
or even if it's 2 million now.
Mhm.
If you add that up, Donald Trump only has 3 years left to go. So if he's gotten rid of 2 million right now, he had another 6 million more possibly.
Right.
You know, that's going to be what 8 million.
Mhm.
And here's the problem that we have. Again, we've had over 30 million come through our borders.
Right.
You know, so if you've only gotten rid of 8 million, you know, come at the end of your 4 years, let's just say the Democrats take right back into control
Right.
for some reason. You know, because we know how things happen. Um, they're going to undo every last thing Donald Trump just did, anyways. I can guarantee you. It will
Mhm.
be cutting Trump's wall again, you know,
Yep.
and allowing millions more to pour back through. That's what they want. They want the
Yep.
destruction. In my opinion, they want the destruction of this country. That's what I'm seeing. And
Agreed.
you know, so this is why, again, it's so important that we find a way to reach out to every last patriot in this country and door knock. I mean, go out, get people down to vote. We've got
Yep.
to have the votes. You know,
Yep.
we've already lost. Well, God, what 3 different elections here this year already.
Mhm.
Daniel Gutierrez out of Tucson.
Tucson.
You know, just because he didn't even have 10% of the Republicans get out and vote, and he would have won. Uh,
Right.
Same thing out in Florida. You know, they only had about the same percentage as what Daniel Gutierrez had get out and vote.
Wow.
So we're basically giving the Democrats these elections.
Yeah.
You know,
Yep.
because America, what I have learned is the American people get so caught up into just sitting back, relaxing when Trump's in office. It's like, oh, we're good, we're good.
Right. Right.
They don't think about the consequences behind it by us not sort of pushing forward a little bit. You know, because when we lose the House, we lose the Senate seats. That hurts this country more,
Yeah.
more than anybody could possibly know.
Yep.
Um, you have some information this morning about 30. How many?
I think there's 300 or so on the list. Do you
300.
want to stop sharing and I'll share mine what I've got here?
Okay, I'm gonna try to just fast forward this real quick,
Okay, yeah,
and
let's finish
then we
this
can
here.
do that. I want to see if I can get to that one part because he really went off on Omar.
Assaulted or shot. And that's exactly what our administration is working to deliver. I didn't realize I was going to make this such a big factor in the I didn't really campaign. I campaigned on crime, but I never thought we'd go into every city and take a really safe city that we've all been living with for years and make them safe. And now it's like a passion for me, and it's a passion for the people behind me. So I didn't get elected. I did get elected for crime, but I didn't get elected for what we're doing. This is many, many steps above. And I want to thank Stephen Miller, who's right back in the audience right there.
Okay.
I'd love to during the course of this period. If India doesn't buy oil, it makes it much easier. Every boat is saving 25,000 lives, and you can see it. The boats get hit, and you
To capture Charlie Kirk's alleged assassin in 33 hours. Just as a snapshot, but just so people don't think we're focusing on violent crime alone, the national security.
will leave. I don't have to leave it up to them, but I choose to at this moment, at least.
Well,
And like the president said, this is just the beginning or phase one or a start, whatever you want to say, but it will continue on. So
okay. Well, so much for having that in my lineup. Sorry about that. Well, you know what? I had it all ready to play. And for
Yeah.
whatever reasons, it booted that part out.
Hmm.
So,
Curious.
either way, I'll find it again and get assured.
Yeah.
But
All right.
what the heck? It's Monday, right?
Right. It's the Monday blues. Okay. So this came across my freak book feed. Um, and I find this very, very curious. Let's see. Is it there? There we go. Okay. So let me go back up a little ways. Can you see that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is if they're actually involved in a crime against a child, do not pass go, do not collect $2 million, go directly to prison. End of story. Breaking: DOJ just sent Congress the official Epstein name list. I think this is crap, but whatever. AG Pamela Bondi and Deputy AG Todd Blanche have submitted a 6-page letter to the House and Senate Judiciary Committees under Section 3 of the Epstein Files Transparency Act, which requires a full accounting of redactions made and a list of every government official and politically exposed person named in the released files. The full list reads like a who's who of global power. U.S. presidents and family: Donald Trump, Melania Trump. And then, so we can see here, there's all these folks, U.S. politicians. We go down to foreign leaders and royals, business and tech, celebrities and media. Now, this is where I start going, what the hell is this list? Why is Elvis Presley, Marilyn Monroe on here, Kurt Cobain? These guys, they're dead, right? Media and legal: Dershowitz, Bob Woodward. So this is supposedly the list. The DOJ states that no records were withheld on the basis of embarrassment, reputational harm, or political sensitivity, and that the only redactions made were to protect victim identities, shield CSAM, and preserve active investigations. Unredacted versions remain available for congressional inspection. This is the first time the federal government has officially cataloged every powerful name that surfaced across 3 million pages of Epstein files. The letter is now in the hands of both parties.
So why are we redacting files?
Exactly.
You know,
They're redacting files of the people who are the perpetrators, not of the victims. That's why I'm just like, what the hell?
Well, exactly. I mean, why would you protect these thugs?
Exactly. I don't know. It doesn't feel right. This whole list just feels like crap to me.
But you know, I keep hearing that there's a lot more people that people are discovering. They're like, what the hell? You know?
Yeah, there are. I mean, you've got who did I say? Oh, Deepak Chopra.
Yeah.
He's one of the big ones. You know, you've got the Dalai Lama in there, right? I mean, just some people that you're going, what the heck? And they're not on this list that supposedly rolled out. So I don't know what that list was supposed to be. I think it's some sort of BS, whatever, to try to appease some aspect of the public, maybe, but it's not. And because we know, the people know it's not a full list. There's no way that only 300 names are going to show up in 3 million pieces of evidence. Sorry, don't buy it. Don't buy it at all, especially when the names of the people who have committed these atrocities aren't being shared, right? So something just feels off. I don't like what I'm seeing, and yeah, a little more frustration. Oh, Bondi.
Well, I was trying to write here, and it looks like I'm going to have to get myself some more Trump pens.
Yeah.
Because okay, it's working now. Yeah. Every time I go to Trump International, I pick up these ball pens to see if we can get it up on camera nice and close.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Cool.
Yeah. But anyways, good quality pens.
Nice.
But you know, here's the thing, Julie. You know, when we have this much evidence out there now, we're still not seeing arrest. We're not.
No.
not like we should be.
No.
They've got the evidence in hand. They know who was involved. They know he was involved in a lot of the sex crimes now.
Yeah.
It's come out. But when are we all going to start seeing the indictments? That's my
Well, and not just the sex crimes, but the bloody cannibalism. I mean, come on.
yeah.
That is just when I learned about that, I'll tell you guys, I had 2 months of cognitive dissonance where I could not even go out of my house because everywhere I looked, there was the pedophile symbols. The FBI rolled out the pedophile symbolism, and it's every flippin' where. It's in logos, on company names. It's everywhere. And then to have proof of it in the Epstein files that yes, something with beef jerky. I don't even want to know what the hell that is. I've got my suspicions. It's just absolutely disgusting, and we need answers. And this little bullshit list that they threw out over the weekend, Ms. Bondi, does not suffice. So go back to the drawing board and freaking arrest somebody already. This is crazy.
Well, it just kind of goes to show you, in my opinion, what money can buy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we look at the Clintons over the years, the amount of corruption they've gotten away with, including not even appearing before Congress and different things. When
Right.
they've
Now,
been
aren't they scheduled for like the 27th and 28th of this month, I thought?
I'll believe it when I see it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Supposedly they're back on the docket, though, for those days, I think.
Yeah. Well, they were on the dockets before, and they just kind of shined them on. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And boy, I got a little late start this morning to my coffee, but boy, thank God for Loaded Gun Coffee. Oh, it gives me gives me a boost every morning. Speaking of Loaded Gun Coffee, you guys want some of the best coffee out there, folks. As far as I'm concerned, it is the best. Check out Loaded Gun Coffee out of Lake Havasu, Arizona. You guys can order their products right here on Your News Arizona. If you scan the QR code right there, these guys' coffee, in my opinion, puts Black Rifle Coffee Company to shame. And I used to like Black Rifle Coffee Company coffee up until I had Loaded Gun Coffee.
Nice.
But if you guys scan the QR code, make sure you enter JTA. I think it's your news.
Your News, AZJTA.
Yeah. Enter that code when you're making a purchase, and Loaded Gun Coffee gives over a small portion to Your News Arizona in support of our channel. And they've also got a great line of Patriot products in their store there. So check out their online store, folks. And okay. So, Julie, we have the Epstein file list. We have all the evidence, even though it's redacted. But there's a lot in there. I've been slowly but surely going through it myself, just checking it out. And it's like, my God, why are these people walking?
Still walking around, yes.
Why have they not been incarcerated?
Right.
And that's very concerning because, here's the thing. The Democrats, if they get back in power, I guarantee you they're going to want blood for all this. They're going to go after Trump. They're going to go after, Pete Hegseth, everybody, including Tom Holman. They're saying they're going to go after as well now. And if you think about it, we have to find a way to put a stop to the Democrat Party now. And we do. And as far as I'm concerned, that'll just abolish the whole party.
Agreed.
It's corrupt. It's corrupt. We've got all the evidence supporting that it's corrupt. And you know what? We know the 2020 election was stolen, and we know it now. And God knows how many other people's elections have been stolen.
Oh, right, with the machines, absolutely, yes.
But and all the evidence that came out in Georgia, California, the semi-loads of ballots that showed up, that they recently confiscated,
Mhm.
and so they know basically. I think Trump even won California.
I think he probably did as well.
Yep. But the point is the amount of corruption this country has been facing year after year after year. But you know what?
Mhm.
It even goes back even on the Republican Party too.
Right, right.
There's been a lot of corrupt shit even the Republicans have done too. And I'm
Yep.
not going to lie. So don't get me wrong. Republicans aren't little angels in this either.
Oh no.
And this is why we're seeing the Democrats, in my opinion, not being incarcerated, because these Democrats have got so much on the Republican Party. It's probably enough to bury the Republican Party as well. And so for all you guys that want to be haters for me saying that this morning, well, get over it. I speak my mind. And but this has been an ongoing issue that we've had in this country, and the Constitution flat out says we're not supposed to allow this kind of a corrupt government.
Exactly. Right. The Constitution was written in order to protect this from happening. I feel like we've got to go back and restore the republic. I mean, it's been interpreted via both parties. The level of government is too big, and it's costing us a lot of money, and there's no need for it. I was very happy to see a number of federal agencies are being looked at and scaled down. Department of Education, supposedly last Wednesday was their last day of the admin offices. And so, yeah, we need to be trimming the fat that has been misguided, misappropriated, misused finances of we the people. And, especially learning how much they were not working, right? Just having their little parties and freak offs. It's very disconcerting.
Hey, have you heard anything about this government shutdown right now?
Very little that it's supposed to happen, but I'm not really
Well,
sure on
well,
all the
well,
ins and outs.
it did happen over the weekend.
Okay.
So I did know
So
that.
who shut down?
Here, I'm going to go ahead and share this article. This is what came across this morning. I don't know if that's it. No, that's not it. There we go. Is it going to play or not?
Looks like it is, but there is no sound.
Well, here we go. Let's try this one more time. Doggone it.
All gone way too far.
I think we need to call it for what it is.
Secretary
There is a
Clinton.
legitimate reason to have a debate about things like migration. It went too far. It's been disruptive and destabilizing, and it needs to be fixed in a humane way with secure borders that don't torture and kill people, and how we're going to have a strong family structure, because it is at the base.
Secretary.
It went too far, she says. Border czar Tom Homan joins us now. Thank you for joining us, Tom. And, it's interesting to hear Hillary Clinton now come out and say that the Biden open border crisis was exactly that. It went too far. It was disruptive and needed to be fixed, which the Trump administration is now attempting to do.
She's just trying to get on Trump's good side right now.
Well, look, you're exactly right.
Good
We
luck
heard for
with
4
that.
years the border's secure. Over 10 million illegal aliens crossed the border and released in this country, not properly vetted. President Trump has given us the most secure border in the history of the nation. He did that in like 7 weeks, right? And when he did that, look at the
Okay, I got to say this. This is what drives me nuts about even Tom Homan, President Trump, and all these guys. Now, Tom Homan just said 10 million illegals unvetted. Well, you listen to these guys. I mean, let's get it straight, folks. We've had over 30 million illegals come through the borders. One reporting Tom Homan will say 10 million, another reporting will say 20 million. I've heard him
Right.
say as much as 24 million. Donald
Mm-hmm.
Trump does the same thing all the time. And
Yep.
none of them get the numbers straight.
And they continue to say that we're 100% secured, which is 200% wrong.
Right, which we're going to be exposing a lot on that matter as well, and
Right.
what our military is doing. Um, but here's the thing: it drives me nuts. It's like, we had over 30 million come through the borders. That's the ones that they processed.
Right.
Where they came through, lined up on the border wall like they're all going to Disneyland. Got their boarding passes, the whole 9 yards. I mean, we did all that coverage for years.
Right.
But here's the thing. That's the 30 million that they know of. That's not even including the gotaways. You might as well chop it up at least another 10 million gotaways,
At least.
if not way more.
Yep.
So again, this is why I'm concerned, Julie, because even if Donald Trump has been able to deport 2 million so far, get them out of here.
Mm-hmm.
That we're over a year in his presidency now.
Right.
So even if he gets rid of 8 million, we're going to have still over 30 million in this country, including the gotaways.
Right. And there's still chatter right now about sleeper cells being activated in certain cities too.
Oh yeah, and I think we're going to start seeing complete chaos. And I think it's going to be at a point where the American people are going to have to take up defense, and just to protect their families and their cities. This is what I see coming. But I'm not promoting violence, so don't people just go, oh, call the FBI, he's calling for violence.
No.
That's not happening, folks. I'm just saying this is what we see coming. The Democrats have already declared a civil war on us, and they have.
Yes.
And it shows. It shows what's happening in our cities, our ICE agents being attacked, law enforcement being attacked.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you guys think this is all just peaceful protest, this is an act of aggression on the Democrats. Yes. And this is why these cities are blatantly just telling their people to get out there and do this. Your city mayors, the governors of those states, and when have we ever seen a Republican Party sit there and declare, go attack everybody?
No, that doesn't happen.
That's one thing I can honestly say about the Republican Party. I've never seen that yet.
No, I haven't either.
But when it comes to the Democrats, absolutely. Here, I'm going to play a little more of this from Tom Homan, and I want to hear about the shutdown.
Thousands of lives he's saving, Griff. You've been down there plenty of times. We don't have children drowning in the river. We don't have historic sex trafficking, women and children coming across the border. We don't have historic numbers of Americans dying from fentanyl comes across the open border. We don't have 400 plus national security threats from terrorist-related countries coming across the border. President Trump is a game changer, gave us the most secure border in a lifetime. We got record numbers of deportations of illegal aliens in this country, with the vast majority being criminals. We're doing all the right things.
Well, and you just concluded the operation in Minneapolis, Operation Metro Surge, which you have touted as a success. Why is it a success, and why is it that Democrats, like those in the state of Minnesota, have trouble understanding exactly that success?
Look, it's a great success, but I don't expect any politician from that state to say, President Trump, congratulations, did a good job. Tom Homan did a good job. Bottom line is President Trump sent me up there to de-escalate, get state and local cooperation, and stop being a sanctuary state and arrest illegal aliens with a focus on criminals. Over 4,000 arrests, done. De-escalation, done. Collaboration and cooperation with the prisons and the counties, done. When we leave Minnesota, it's a much safer city because we arrested 14 illegal aliens with homicide convictions, 87 sexual assaults, mostly of children, and just a lot of criminal aliens, public safety threats we removed from the streets. It's a great success, and the men and women who carry that badge and gun for ICE, is safer for them because they can arrest a public safety threat at a jail premise rather than going on the street and trying to arrest them on their turf where they have access to who knows what weapons. Minnesota is less of a sanctuary state because of what we did there.
And I would just add to that, you also rescued in this operation thousands of children.
Yeah.
Yes.
Over 3,300 children. You know, the last administration, over 500,000 children smuggled in this country, released to unvetted sponsors. They lost track of 300,000 of them. President Trump has already found 145,000 of them.
I'm going to pause that right there, Julie. So here's the thing. So we know for a fact from the Tucson sector and the Yuma sector, they were doing a lot of human trafficking over to Las Vegas. And they were going right through Kingman, Arizona on buses and different things. And my understanding, these children are being prostituted out for sex. I mean, everything in the book. Government officials, people with lots of money are going in paying for the sex. And they've shut down several different operations in Vegas but Vegas alone is a multi-trillion-dollar operation as well, where they have profited a lot of money off of these women and children. And it's sick, you know.
It is sick.
And again, why are we not seeing Vegas targeted?
Right. Right.
ICE. So anybody out there on ICE, where are you guys at in Vegas? You guys need to have your butts out there. It's happening every day. And my understanding is still continuing to happen. So, which we're going to try to do our best to expose that as well.
Right.
But
right.
It's just pretty sick.
In Minnesota alone, over 3,300 missing children we found that the last administration wasn't even looking for.
So you didn't get the thanks, as you mentioned, but it appears that Governor Walz and Mayor Frey want to send a bill to the federal government. Here's a little bit of what they have been saying. Listen here.
$103 million in economic impact in just January alone. And so we're calling on the federal government to fully step up, to provide direct financial assistance to our city.
The federal government needs to pay for what they broke here. You don't get to break things and then just leave without doing something about it.
Tom, your reaction?
That's rich.
A lot of things were broken, but it wasn't because of Trump administration. The border, the last 4 years, over 10 million illegal aliens crossed that border. That was broken. Where were they then? Did Governor Walz speak out against that?
No, he said
with
over
the overdose deaths and the sex trafficking and the no
Get the numbers right, Tom.
They broke the border. President Trump fixed the border. They let millions of people in this country illegally release kids to unvetted sponsors. President Trump's fixing that. And what did the state of Minnesota break? They were a sanctuary state. Their county jails weren't working with us across the state. So you know what? We fixed it. They ought to be saying thank you. The state's safer because of that. And President Trump gets another win. President Trump gets a win every day. Every day he's winning. Yeah. And I'm just proud to be a small part of this administration.
Now, you know, Julie, I disagree.
To me because what you
and I'm just going to speak my mind. I think we lost on this matter. Tom Homan went in there. They ordered their ICE agents out of the area. You know, why did we bow to Minnesota?
Why did we what? I couldn't hear you.
Why did we bow, to Minnesota? Why did we give in?
Yeah.
I mean, Frey's not working with us. Tim Walz really isn't working with us. They were doing a lot of work, getting a lot of people out. And so why would you withdraw the ICE agents from Minnesota?
I don't know.
I'm trying to understand it.
To me, it doesn't add up in my head. I don't know why.
Well, that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to make it add up in my head. I'm trying to process this.
Right.
As they're sitting there saying, we've got victory and we did this and we did that. Well, yes, I grant ICE agents were kicking butt in Minnesota. But why right in the middle of kicking butt do you turn around and pull the troops?
Mm-hmm.
So, and don't tell me it's because all of a sudden you believe Frey and Tampon Tim's going to do their damn job.
Right. No.
Is what you accomplished in Minnesota is to prove that the cooperation with local sheriffs and jails is making communities safer, but yet you have here in New York, where I am, Governor Hochul wants to get rid of that 287G program, which allows and provides for that cooperation, as well as a bill that's passed the Maryland legislature. A few seconds here, but your reaction to Democrats in states like that?
New York State's my home state, and look, Governor Hochul, play the tape. She said for the last 6 months, ICE should be concentrating on criminals and forget about everybody else. ICE should be concentrating on criminals. Then she locks us out of the jails. She can't square that. Just politicians. It's politics at its worst. They're putting politics ahead of public safety. Bottom line.
It's crazy. Tom Homan, thank you for joining us.
You got it. Thanks, Griff.
And don't go anywhere. More Fox and Friends is next.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
Oh,
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe.
So they had that titled about the headline there for the shutdown, and now they didn't talk one word about it. Way to go there, good old Fox News.
Right. They're just as corrupt as all the other ones.
Yeah. But anyway, supposedly the country went into a partial shutdown, whatever a partial means.
Right.
That's supposed to be what took place over the weekend. And the Democrats are definitely trying to defund our police, defund the ICE. They want no rule of law in place. And, Trump, I think Trump's going to end up having to find ways to pull money elsewhere to fund it.
Well, I thought that's what the tariffs were for.
Well, there's plenty of money coming in from it. So
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, and then what happened to the talk about folks receiving $2,000 from those tariffs that we're supposedly bringing in? I haven't heard about that in several weeks.
Yeah. Well, one second they act like it's going to be there, next second it goes silent. Then they talk about it again, and it's almost like they're giving just enough to make people water at the mouth, like, oh, good.
Right.
And just to keep their hopes up or whatever. I'm not sure what the game plan here is.
Well, and it's also curious that, you've got the state of Mississippi taking away income tax, and the rest of the states are like, oh, we want that too. And so it's going to be curious to see over tax season who actually goes in and files. And if you get the same percentage of people that file income tax after we've been shown how much fraud takes place after we do pay our taxes.
Yep. Well, you look at the and I'm going to say, I think the numbers are going to be up in the trillions, not billions. The trillions of dollars of fraud where they've been taken from the American people. People like you and I that's been out there working our butts off, paying into the system over the years, but yet these people think they're entitled to our taxpayer dollars, as they're sitting there funding their terrorism and, they're funding their other countries, terrorist groups to harm America. And what the hell? We funded it.
Yep. Fully.
And it's like, what the hell are we paying taxes for if all they're going to do is just give it to the enemy?
Yep, exactly. And that's why I say it's going to be very interesting to see how many people have woken up to that fact and whether or not they're going to pay taxes this year.
Yep. So we are going to be, I had a meeting over the weekend, by the way, down on the border. I didn't even talk to you about it yet, Julie, but anyways, we've got some things in the works, and we will be doing probably a 10-day stretch in both sectors.
Okay, great.
So we will be live on the border each day, coming up real soon. So Julie will be behind stage right here on the main scene, and then I'll be live.
The anchor.
I'll be live somewhere out in the field.
That's right.
We're just going to put it that way.
Right.
We're not each day. We're not going to tell you which location we're going to be at until we're already there.
Right.
Don't want to give the enemy heads up of what we're doing out in the field.
Right.
But we've got a lot of things in the works, Julie. We are definitely going to be in a major battle with the cartel. So You guys can say you heard it from your news, Arizona, because I can tell you right now, folks, we are going to be in a fight, and it's coming.
Yeah.
And we have had this amount of law enforcement loss of lives here over the last couple of months around the country, being gunned down in the line of duty, cartel thugs, organized crime. I mean, you name it, it's happening all over this country.
Yeah.
It's not the country, that it was even 8 years ago. I mean, this has gone really downhill.
Right.
And, it's pretty sad when you put on that uniform each day to go out to work and, you got like a 50-50 shot of coming home.
Coming home. Exactly. Yeah. Yep.
And,
Agreed.
but yeah, we're going to be at a full-scale invasion on the cartel. I can tell you that's coming.
Mm-hmm.
And we've got a lot of military activity on the borders right now. A lot of things are being put into place for what's going to be taking place. And if you guys been paying attention around the country, what's going on, Texas shutting down their airspace. I don't care what they're trying to tell people. Well, this is why we did this. No, I'll tell you why they did it. Because right now they're getting ready for the invasion on the cartel as well. And, and they want to make sure there's no flights that were going to interrupt anything that's going on. And I think we're going to see a lot of that going on down here in Arizona as well, coming in the near days.
Right.
They'll probably shut down the airspace. Besides the military bases like that, we got bases down in Yuma, and all that. And they're a damn good base down there. But other than that, I think we're going to see restricted flights even down in Yuma.
Wow.
Well, you got the border, right? You got the border right there.
Right.
The cartel's been actually using some very high, sophisticated drones. And I mean, these drones, they're really advanced, Julie. These are military grade drones. The cartel.
I was gonna say, commercial or military grade, probably.
Yeah. These guys have these drones that can easily take out hundreds of our men at a time. And I know right now they've been focused at bringing down a lot of these drones down there on the border. But now the cartel has this more sophisticated drone that they got their hands on, where our blockers and stuff that we were using to bring down these drones is not going to work as well.
Wow.
So that becomes concerning because you got to keep in mind, like down in Yuma, right there from the border wall to our major base isn't even 5 minutes. So
wow.
The cartel has those kind of drone capability. They could easily fly it right over to the Yuma base. Not to mention the Yuma Proving Ground base as well, which is not far from the border. I mean, when I say not far, you can almost throw a rock and hit it.
Wow.
But either way, I mean, this is what America is facing right now. I think we are going to, and people say, oh, the cartel's nothing. Any of you guys that want to believe that, I can tell you right now, you're dumber than a box of rocks. These cartel they're very sophisticated.
They're very sophisticated.
They're very well trained. Our CIA has even trained them.
Right.
I mean, trust me. You go through CIA training, you've got some pretty top-notch training. And this is what we're facing, and this is why the cartel is not intimidated by our troops. They're not,
right?
Because the cartel, they're crazy enough that they will engage against our military. So this is kind of where our country's at, Julie. And for those of you guys out there, are prayer warriors. Keep our ICE agents, Border Patrol, keep us in your prayers as well, me and our team.
Please.
Because down there on those borders, it's definitely not a safe zone. It's not a safe place to be at all.
Right.
But we do have some officials coming with us as well on this coming up trip, and which we'll make a bigger announcement on that at the time.
Good.
But so you'll be having to pretty much run the show from the stage here, Julie.
You got it. I got your back. I got you.
We'll be broadcasting live right there on scene. Um,
Awesome.
and then
Awesome.
we're also looking for volunteers, folks. If you guys got military background, law enforcement background, whatever, we're needing people to assist in our with our team. I cannot have convicted felons working with us down on the border.
Right.
So we need people that are qualified to be able to do this work.
Mm-hmm.
And no offense to anybody. I realize some people have Mickey Mouse convictions that just can't have guns. But
Right.
either way, the point is, when we're down there, we are under scope 24/7.
Sure. Absolutely. Yep. They know you're there before you know you're there.
Yeah.
So,
But we need people that are qualified. Also need a medical responder.
Okay.
Somebody that has medical training
Right.
to be able to assist if we have any kind of injuries down there on the border.
Okay.
It'd be nice to have a first aid person on site.
Right.
We've all got some training, but it'd be nice to have somebody designated just for that.
Sure. Sure. Yep. Okay.
So anybody who wants to volunteer, give me a call, 928-385-4738. And we just got a lot of things in motion right now that we're going to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
And making sure I didn't have a comment here. And if you guys ever want to call into our show, call in. Again, the phone number is 928-385-4738. We'd love to bring you on the air. Or if you just got comments you want to make or whatever, we're not going to silence you. Freedom of speech. And doesn't mean we're going to always agree to disagree. We don't have to always agree. We can agree to disagree. That's what I'm trying to say.
Agree.
So, I'm still tired from my trip.
Yeah, I bet.
But we just got a lot of stuff in play here, and we're just going to continue pushing forward.
Yeah.
And right now, this country is in trouble. And I'm going to say it. We are in trouble. Because we've got the enemy in our wire, in our gates. We've got the Democrats that are focused on working with the enemy.
Mm-hmm. And protecting the enemy. Yes.
And protecting the enemy. And the people go, oh, the Democrats. Well, guess what, folks? There's millions and millions of them too. Okay? So on top of the enemy, millions and millions of the enemy. So I would say we're almost pretty well outnumbered. That's what I'm kind of seeing right now.
Mm-hmm.
But if you think about it, can you hear me okay, Julie?
Yes, I can hear you just great.
Okay. Sorry about that. But, we're pretty much outnumbered if you think about it, because you got over 30 million that, that we know that came through our gates, plus on top of the millions of Democrats. But at the same time, don't get me wrong, we've got a lot of our side that's very well trained, capable of whatever.
Right.
But, nobody wants to see bloodshed on American soil.
No, definitely not. And yet, but this whole, stealing babies and all of that, we've already had bloodshed in our country. And it's been going on for a really long time. So, I get what you're saying as far as bloodshed for a war, but when it comes to the children, this has already happened. And so, it's sad.
Well, especially, you take into consideration, look at the amount of just children alone that came through our border. They don't know where they're at. I can almost guarantee you they've been probably used for body parts, for organ harvesting and different things, which, they do know that's been going on. And it's sick. It's sick to see what, where this world is at. It really is.
Yeah.
And, I don't care what country you're from, no child deserves to be a victim to this heinous crimes,
Yep.
None of them.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, this is a big prayer time, boy. If you haven't found God yet, you need to.
Amen to that.
I mean, it's just wow.
Yeah. Well, and you know, a lot of people go, well, you're just too extreme, Alexander. It's like, well, I'm the one on the front lines. You know,
Yeah,
I'm the
you've seen
boots on
it.
the ground.
You've lived it. Yeah, you know
I'm,
how horrible it is
I've
down
seen
there.
it. I've lived it.
Hmm.
You know, been in the war zone down there
Yep.
multiple times.
Hmm.
We've actually come under fire multiple times from the cartel.
Hmm.
You know, anybody thinks those borders are safe, you know, is obviously smoking something pretty good. Some days I might say, well, maybe you ought to share it. Need some joy, happy, joy.
Right.
That's a joke. That's a joke. But but no, it's just it's just a matter of when your boots on the ground, you're down there witnessing it, you're seeing it. You know, when you're seeing these children come through the borders, just reeking of semen, the stench you'll never forget. You know, I mean, and kind of find out what they got 10, 12 different DNAs in them or whatever. You know, I
Gross.
mean,
Ugh,
from different semens in them. Well,
so
you know, the
horrible.
cartel brutally raped them. You know, and not just the children, the women, even young men were being raped by the cartel. You know,
Yeah,
that were being human trafficked. I mean,
horrible.
this is how sick these thugs are. They're evil, satanic, and and again, I pray to God that Trump wipes them off the face of this earth. I'm going to say it.
Yes, please.
You know,
Yes, yes.
so that's where I will promote violence. Okay,
Mhm.
the
No.
cartel is nothing but evil thugs. So, any of you cartels out there that are happening to watch your news, Arizona, just for the record, you do not intimidate me. Um, and and when you send me those little threats that you guys sometimes send me, no worries, because we're always hunting for you guys down there on the border too.
Hmm.
So only difference is I don't hide like you little pansies. So either way,
Yeah.
okay. So I said my piece.
So, what is going on in your studio that there's a flash of light that keeps coming through? It's
Oh, good
to
call.
your left. It's on your left side.
Okay, must be.
There, it
I'm
just
gonna.
did it again.
I'm not sure.
Interesting. Hmm.
Must be some kind of a little power surge going on.
Maybe so. It's been flashing quite a bit. Interesting.
Huh. Yep.
Hmm.
Oh,
Well, there you go.
there's somebody. Good morning. Good morning. How can I help you? Ah, geez. Okay. Anyways, you still doing it, Julie?
Uh, not yet.
Might be with the studio lighting as well. Might be flickering.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll see how that goes.
Let's hold on one second. Let me adjust the lighting real quick and tell me if that takes care of it.
Okay. Ooh,
Well, that's a little bright.
floodlight.
How about that right there?
Yeah, there we
Better?
go. That's pretty bright. Yeah, that's good.
Okay. See if it still flickers. Yeah, it could have been the lighting.
Yeah.
I've got all this new lighting for the studio. I'm just learning, just starting to learn it, how to make it.
Right.
That it's almost. Is that too bright or no?
I think it's too bright. Looks like you're squinting.
How about
That's
there?
better. Yeah, that's better.
All right.
All right,
Yeah.
we'll just keep an eye on it.
It's got a bunch of different settings, so but it might be some kind of a power surge going on in the studio too.
Mm.
But either way, let's see. The other thing that we were going to talk about. Let's see. We finished Mr. Holman. Oh, so we got Richard Gage with 9/11 Truth coming on again tomorrow. That's going to happen at 6 p. Let's see, 7 p.m. Mountain Time, 6 Pacific.
Okay.
And Richard Gage and his group of architects are demanding for a new investigation in the World Trade Center. It looks like they're getting what they need.
Good.
So they've exposed it. They've got all the evidence in hand, which we're going to be sharing a lot tomorrow night again.
Mm-hmm. Good.
Every time I go to the border, I get really hoarse from all the desert sand.
Yeah.
Well, but either way, we're going to be down there reporting tomorrow with Richard Gage. Not down there. We're going to be
Not
here
down there.
reporting
Yeah.
with Richard Gage tomorrow. And hope you guys can tune in for that. Just the amount of evidence and corruption from 9/11 is unreal, Julie.
I've seen that. Yes, it's crazy.
And what they have is indisputable. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
and it was without a doubt a controlled demolition.
Mm-hmm.
And how America could kill off Americans, I don't understand.
Well, it's
greed,
not good Americans that did it. I mean, let's just, let's quantify it there. These are not people for the people, right?
Yeah.
The people that were in charge of this are not for we the people.
Yeah. But when I first met Richard years ago, and we were on these subjects, in the beginning, it was almost hard to swallow a lot of it. Hard to just imagine us being able to do what we did, that day.
The cognitive dissonance is huge.
Yeah.
I mean, when you come up with, and that cognitive dissonance happens when we learn something that's diametrically opposed to what we believe.
Right.
And it really is a hard pill to swallow when it's so outside of our reality that we've had before this, and so, yeah, we're all having to re-examine, I think, not only our own lives, but the lives of the people around us, and see how we all fit together, and learn that there's a lot of differences that are trying to keep us from joining together. And it's crazy time to be alive. I'm going to keep saying that.
Yeah, and Julie, what I've really found interesting is they've got so many law enforcement officers that were there that day that all agree with Richard that this was a controlled demolition. They heard the explosions.
They heard the pops.
They heard all the explosions from the ground level working its way up in a chain reaction, even before one of the planes even hit. They got, the firefighters are all coming forth saying the same thing, not to mention the evidence that they have at hand. And more importantly, take a look at the third one, Building 7.
Yeah.
Never got touched by a plane, folks. Never even got touched. And it went down the same way Building 1 and 2 went down.
Yep.
Explain that one to me.
Exactly.
Hello, McFly.
I know.
Help us comprehend this one there.
Right?
United States government. Did we forget one?
Yeah.
But either way.
It's crazy.
But, and again, it was a cover-up for a lot of corruption going on in that building as well, with money, different things. It was probably the greatest heist in America, if you want to think about it.
And then if you scratch the surface even a little bit, you're going to find out that there were a lot of people that were told either that morning or the day before not to go to work on purpose.
Yep.
Right?
And
so they knew this. They knew this ship was happening. They knew it was going down. They were part of it.
Yeah, and that's part of the investigation as well, because a lot of these people are starting to come forward now and saying the same thing. They were notified not to be there that day, right. So they're getting all their people ready for what's coming up here, and I think it's going to be, God, what was it, September maybe?
I thought you said June.
Well, they're starting in June, but they got the main information coming in September as well that they're going to be presenting. This is going to be a long drawn out ordeal, Julie. It's not going to
Well, it's
be
already
one,
been a
two.
long, drawn out
Yeah.
ordeal. Good God, that happened
Well,
in 2001. And
yeah.
here we are just starting to learn the truth about it.
And and here's the thing. I've had a lot of people sitting there asking us, why are you guys so focused on 9/11 again, over 20 years after the fact? Well, let me tell you guys why. And I said it the other day on one of our broadcasts. Corruption is corruption. I don't care if it was 20 years ago. When you can murder mass amounts of people here in America, I don't care who you are, justice needs to be served. Period.
Absolutely.
The
Yep.
American people need justice. The families that lost their loved ones that day need
Yep.
justice.
And we
The
deserve
people,
the truth.
yeah, the people dying from cancer every day from that day deserve
Hmm.
justice.
Right.
And
Right.
and there's no compensation in this world that can ever replace human life.
That's right.
All the money in the world doesn't buy that.
No.
And you look at the amount of loss of life that we had, unbelievable. Again, more in a couple hours than what we had in Pearl Harbor.
Yep.
And we lost a lot of men in Pearl Harbor.
Hmm.
So, that was the biggest blow that this country has probably ever seen at that
Yep.
point. But
Well, I hope that folks tune in tomorrow evening. And if not, they can roll back to when you interviewed Richard a couple of days ago. I listened to it. Really good interview. So,
today, folks, we are broadcasting live on Q Broadcast Channel 24.
yeah.
So we are live on television now. We're also on Facebook, YouTube, Rumble. You can follow us on Facebook under Jonathan Townsend Alexander, or also have Your News Arizona on Facebook as well, which is being broadcasted live to that. But if you guys haven't signed up for Q Broadcasts on our Facebook and YouTube followers out there in Rumble, up in the right hand corner, we got let's see. No, that's the Your News one. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
For Q Broadcast, you guys get unlimited television for $69.99 a month. You get all your HBO, Showtime, Cinemax, Stars, Encore, pay-per-view, all your sports networks, local networks, Hallmark channels. I mean, everything you can possibly imagine. Q Broadcast gives you for one low price of $69.99 a month. And that's without a contract, folks. Doesn't get any better than that. So I'm going to
Out of contract or commercials.
Yeah. So I'm going to put their link right up here in the right-hand corner and replace some Your News. So if you guys want to check it out, scan that QR code we just put up in the right-hand corner. And again, for great television, I've been with Q now for 3 years since they started. And you're not going to get a better deal for $69.99 a month. And that includes, folks, you're allowed 5 TVs on that subscription. So you can not only use it in your living room, your bedroom, maybe your man den, whatever, But if you got family out somewhere in another state or even in local, turn around and give them, your username and password, because they can never charge it up, because it's everything once you sign up is free. And so give them your username and password and charge them half the price of what you're paying.
Right.
So you guys both can split, you both can split $30-some a month together, and then you got real cheap TV. Not that the price is expensive now, because if you had all this on cable, satellite, or whatever, you're well going to pay over $200-some.
Oh, easy. Yep.
And they give it to you for one low price of $69.99 a month. So check out Q Broadcast, guys, and plus you'll be able to watch us live each day on Channel 24 on the television lineup.
Yeah, fun.
So let's see what time we got, Julie. 8:30.
We're a little over an hour.
Yeah, and I'm going to go ahead and continue live. I know you got some work to do. I'm going to share one of Richard Gage's interviews that he did, which he asked me to go ahead and get that shared out there.
Super.
I'm going to share that, and then we'll be live again tomorrow morning, probably around. What time did we come on this morning? 7:30, somewhere in there. So we'll probably be live around 7:30 Mountain Time, 8 Pacific. I mean 6 Pacific.
8:30.
That.
Yeah. No, 8:30 Central. Closer to 8:30 Central.
8:30 Central. We haven't moved our clocks ahead yet. But Arizona, thank God we don't move.
We don't. I know. I wish they would take it away from the rest of us too. I don't like having to change the time. So anyway, awesome. Well, have a fabulous rest of your day, everyone, and you too, Jonathan.
And you be safe out there, Julie. And we'll see you tomorrow morning.
Okay, sounds great. Bye, everybody. Take care.
Okay, so we're gonna. I'm gonna get over to this interview that Richard Gage did. Get that shared out there. And this is from Redacted. Okay, let's see if I can get that enlarged for you guys.
What really brought down the Twin Towers, the World Trade Center, on 9/11? Was it airplanes, as they've led us to believe, or was it actually a controlled demolition? I think all evidence now points to the fact that it was, in fact, a controlled demolition of the main Twin Towers and Building 7. No one perhaps knows more about this in the world than our next guest. Please welcome San Francisco Bay researcher Richard Gage. He's an AIA member of the American Institute of Architects, and a founder and former CEO of Architects and Engineers for 9/11 Truth. He now leads the charge for a new World Trade Center investigation, along with his courageous wife, Gail, at the richardgage911.org. And we're thrilled to have Richard here on the show. Great to finally have you here on Redacted. We've talked a lot over the years about the airplanes. We've talked about the autopilot system, all of these pieces of it. But you are really, I think, at the center of all of the evidence that's been compiled to prove that these were controlled demolitions. So, Richard, great to have you on the show.
Thank you, Clayton. Awesome to be here with you. And yes, this material is extremely important for everybody to be aware of. So thank you for bringing it and having the courage for so long to bring this material out in pieces to your audience.
Well, thank you. And yeah, without the help of yourself and others helping us put all of this information together over the years. It used to be a really taboo topic. It used to be, 9/11 truther, you're a conspiracy theorist. And I think overwhelmingly most Americans believe that something massively fishy happened on that day. They do not believe the official narrative. So I guess maybe I'll just kind of start there. Do you believe that we've maybe turned a corner now with an awakening?
Indeed, we have. And this started, well, it culminated in former Congressman Curt Weldon speaking up about all aspects of 9/11, calling out the fraud, calling for a new investigation. We have Senator Ron Johnson courageously calling for a new investigation, and he's in the position to do it with subpoena power. So he can take the evidence that we're going to be talking about today in detail and bring it to the American public in the form of a new hearing, a real investigation that the 9/11 Commission did not do. We're very excited about the opportunities of the people that are, because the people are awakening as a result of the COVID scamdemic, as a result of people becoming aware of Gaza, and now the current Middle East problems and all the lies we've been fed.
Well, before we get into the detail, and the way that I wanted to handle today's interview is really almost put all of this evidence in one video, in one interview that people can share. You can share this with everyone, because what we're going to go through today is deep evidence. I mean, we're going to talk molten metal. We're going to talk specifics with these buildings. So just buckle up. But before we get there, before I sort of turn things over to Richard to kind of walk us through all of this evidence, how did you get involved in this?
Well, I was minding my own business. First of all, driving away from the construction observation meeting in Lafayette, California. And I was turned on the radio, listened to Bonnie Faulkner of KPFA's Guns and Butter program, and she was interviewing David Ray Griffin, a researcher who's now written 14 books on this subject of 9/11. And all this evidence that we're going to be talking about today, or much of it, much has come out since he began speaking about this, and right after 9/11, at least 2002. I was shocked to hear this evidence. I had to go back. I had to research. I had to prove him wrong. I mean, I was a flag-waving Reagan Republican. I wanted to go into Afghanistan and Iraq and get those bastards who did this to us. And boy, was I proven wrong. In about 2 months, I did enough research. I said, oh my God, this is a problem. I put together a PowerPoint. I've never done a PowerPoint before. I've never spoken in public before. I've since done 1,000 presentations, right? But I had to take this to the firm that I worked for in Walnut Creek, California. And there, 14 architects and engineers, who most of them thought I was nuts before I showed them this. I bought them pizza, though. I said, look, you guys, free pizza, come in, get it, spend 45 minutes with me, look at this evidence graphically, like we're going to do today, and tell me what you think. By God, at the end of that presentation, all of them raised their hand. You're right. Oh, my God. These are controlled demolitions. We've got to have a real investigation. We're talking about all three of the World Trade Center skyscrapers. Many people don't even know. Most architects and engineers don't even know about the third worst failure in modern history, Building 7. We're going to talk about that first.
Just real quick, I was at the airport and I was sitting next to two young engineers. They had just started their career and they were both sort of commiserating about just getting started, and they were, structural engineers. And I said, do you guys know about Building 7? And they both looked at me and they were like, oh, no, they didn't know. They only knew about the Twin Towers. So I started talking to them about the controlled demolition and you guys should look into it. And they said, yeah. And they said, there's no way. It doesn't make any sense how this building would come down. They couldn't, by the end of this little brief discussion, they were just floored by it. And it's amazing. There's just a lack of awareness about Building 7. So I'm excited to get into all of that. So I would say to our audience, hey, buckle up, because I want to really kind of turn things over to Richard. I might interject, but I'm going to be watching. So for the next 45 minutes, Richard is going to take us through a deep dive of exactly how this happened. So, I guess without further ado, Richard, I'll just sort of turn it over to you.
Okay. And, Clayton, like you and Tucker, who have put this out to the American people in different forms so far, it takes a lot of courage to look at this information, not because it's difficult to understand. A sixth grader can understand what we're going to be presenting today, but because of the implications of these controlled demolitions. What does that mean? We're going to talk about that after we look at the evidence, but we're talking about the huge mass conspiracy that's enveloped not only all of the media, who marched us into war in Afghanistan and Iraq, but the whole world, essentially. I felt very angry upon realizing the truth of this. I felt like a 2x4 hit me over the head when I realized that every member of our Congress, with maybe one exception, bought into this narrative and also the run-up to war, all under false pretenses. I'd been lied to. I got real angry, Clayton, and I don't know if you experienced that, but I just want people to prepare for the worst. If you're new to this material, it's not easy to digest because of the implications. So we start with Building 7 because no one died in that building, according to the narrative anyway, and we have most people don't even know about it. I'm one of 90,000 architects in the American Institute of Architects. We didn't get one bulletin on this, the third worst structural failure in modern history. And this building was a huge building, the biggest building in most of our states, as a matter of fact. And it was 47 stories tall and half the height of the Twin Towers. It looks dwarfed here next to the tallest buildings in the world at the time that they were built. This building's about a football field in length away from the North Tower. And it's standing fine here, even after the Twin Towers came down. NIST says, well, it did get hit by some of the beams from the North Tower that were ejected. We'll talk about that. They said that was not a significant factor in the initiation of this collapse. Well, let's look at that collapse. Don't blink, you'll miss it. The east penthouse drops first in an isolated event. And then 6 seconds later, the entire building does this from top to bottom, straight down, uniformly, symmetrically, into its own footprint. So we have to ask ourselves, have we seen that before? Yeah, we have. But here's how it was explained by Shyam Sunder of the NIST, National Institute of Standards and Technology, who was tasked by Congress to explain these collapses to the American people.
What we found was that uncontrolled building fires caused an extraordinary event. The collapse of World Trade Center 7 was primarily due to fire.
Well, that's interesting. Let's look at those fires, shall we? These are the worst fires that we have any photographic or video evidence of in this building. As you can see, they're few, they're small, and they're scattered, and they're out. About an hour before the building came down, these fires are out on floor 12, where NIST's collapse initiation theory began. They're burned out, and they've moved way on to the west. And yet NIST shows in their fire simulation that these fires are raging. They imply up to the time of the collapse. But these fires could not have been raging on that floor at that time because the photographs completely betray that claim. So we have to look at fires in that's just the beginning of NIST problems, by the way, these fires.
Well, Richard, can I ask you, because I understand there wasn't even enough fuel, enough papers. It was many of the offices were empty. So there wouldn't have been couches and papers and...
there would have been couches and papers. As a matter of fact, NIST acknowledged. Well, NIST acknowledges two things. One, that this building was only half occupied at the time, to your point, because they only evacuated half the number of people that are capable of being tenants in this building. But they didn't evacuate the building, but Richard Rotans did, who we'll hear from early in a moment. But they also acknowledge that fires only burn about 20 minutes in a given area. They move on looking for fresh new fuel sources to burn up. And that's why the photos show them burning, moving on to the west end of the building. And they were out about at least a half an hour before the building collapsed. They were burned out. And
All right, just want to get people's thoughts on this, and I'd like to hear you guys' opinions about 9/11, and how many people didn't know about Building 7. It was never touched by an airplane, but yet it came down. And that's something we'd like to hear from you guys, is your thoughts on the matter. This is under investigation, and we're going to find out soon enough what they're going to be able to do. Hold on a second. So again, if you guys want to call into the studio, you can reach us at 928-385-4738. But we are also looking for other people from 9/11 that may have information that they could share with Richard Gage. Because again, this is going before Congress, and there is a new investigation that's been started with the amount of evidence that Richard and over 100 some architects have all come together to expose this truth to America. So their evidence is indisputable, folks, and I'm just going to say it. The amount of information they are providing in this hearing coming up, you cannot dispute it if you wanted to. These guys are very much the top architects, as far as I'm concerned, in the world, and they are fed up with the government trying to silence this matter. They've silenced it, since 2001, and they're getting it out there. And let me know if you guys think people should be held accountable for this, because quite frankly, I don't care if it was over 20 years ago or whatever. Justice needs to be served, and we've had so many families and so many law enforcement firefighters that were lost that day, so many that are still dying, just from cancer and different things because of 9/11. It's unbelievable. So we're going to go ahead and get back to this broadcast.
Of these particular long span beams in that northeast corner of the building, which then pushed this girder off of its seat on this particular column 79 and caused floor 13 then to fall on 12 and 12 and 11 and so on for 9 floors. None of that could be true for a whole variety of reasons that we go into in our extensive webinar in this series. And our film, Crime Scene to Courtroom, 9/11 Crime Scene to Courtroom. All the time to put out fires. There's been dozens and dozens and dozens of much hotter, larger, and longer lasting fires in these buildings, which have never brought down a steel frame, fire protected high rise ever in history, not before 9/11 or since 9/11, where we have these multitude of examples of fully engulfed skyscrapers that don't come down. The only one that did by fire alone is Building 7. So we have to ask ourselves, what does that actually look like? Well, take a look. We're showing known controlled demolitions on the left, Building 7 on the right. Is there any similarity? Yeah, it looks exactly like a controlled demolition, every one of them. And so what are the features of controlled demolition? Well, we'll begin with feature number 1. Is there a sudden onset of destruction? Let's look and see. Here's Dan Rather explaining his view of this building's collapse that evening.
Now, here we're going to show you a videotape of the collapse itself. Describe that. Now we go to videotape, the collapse of this building.
It's amazing.
Amazing, incredible, pick your word. For the 3rd time today, it's reminiscent of those pictures we've all seen too much on television before, when a building was deliberately destroyed by well-placed dynamite to knock it down.
What was that, Dan? Destroyed by well-placed dynamite to knock it down? Well, here's Dan using his common sense, right? His intuition to understand. We've all seen the old hotels in Las Vegas where they bring them down by explosive controlled demolition. Well, okay. Let's see if feature number 2 is in effect. Is there a straight down symmetrical progression into the building's footprint? Let's look from West Street. Yeah, pretty straight down, pretty symmetrical. How do they accomplish that, Clayton? They have to take out all of the core columns in the building, followed about a second later by the perimeter columns. Any deviation in that pattern, and the building will begin to tip over. That's intuitive, right? This is a science. There's only a handful of companies, controlled demolition companies in the world that can accomplish this. And fire doesn't do this, by the way. These fires, they do not do that at all. If you have any problems in controlled demolition with charges not going off, you get problems like this, where the building begins to roll over. Or this, where the building just stops. It goes down part way, and somebody's got to go back into that building and fix those charges, right? So we have to ask ourselves, what happened here? If a building is damaged on one side, it falls to that side. NIST claims the building had begun to be damaged in the northeast corner. We would expect it to then fall to the northeast corner, like this building in Asia, where it's damaged on one side and it falls to that side. So let's go on then and ask ourselves, feature number 4, is there a free fall acceleration? How fast is this building descending? Well, guess what? It's descending as fast as a bowling ball falling out of the sky. This was clocked by physicists, namely David Chandler, for one, who is a physics teacher. He documents very well here that it came down as fast as that bowling ball at free fall. Well, the bowling ball has no resistance under it. This building had 40,000 tons of structural steel supporting it, 3 to 5 times stronger than it needed to be to support this building during its life. And yet, not one of those columns gave any resistance to this building's free fall, which happened over a third of its 7-second fall. Free fall. NIST denied this for years. They finally acknowledged it because they were publicly embarrassed by members of AE 9/11 Truth. And guess what? They acknowledge it, but they don't acknowledge the obvious implications of free fall, which means none of those columns on at least 8 or 9 floors gave any resistance whatsoever. Even when a column is buckling, it'll provide 25% of its original strength in resistance. Well, where did these columns go then? What happened to them? We're going to find out. Did these fires, few, small, and scattered, bring all those columns, break them all at once, make them disappear essentially, such that they're, feature number 5, totally dismembered one from another? It fell like a house of cards. This is the pile. It's centered in the center of the footprint. We have a moment-resisting steel frame structure, columns and beams welded together rigidly in the perimeter, and X-braced also, and yet it falls as if they've been dismembered. Here's a group of buildings that fell due to natural causes, in this case, earthquakes. We have the building recognizable as such. It's damaged, certainly, but the columns and beams are not severed one from another. The concrete is not pulverized to a fine powder. Did these fires accomplish that level of damage to Building 7? We go to feature number 7. What could? Well, if there were explosions and explosive demolition, we'd have witnesses that would hear them. NIST says there were no witnesses of explosions at Building 7. Well, here's a few of them. This is Daryl, a medical student, being interviewed on New York radio that evening.
We were watching the building actually because it was on fire. The bottom floors of the building were on fire, and we heard this sound that sounded like a clap of thunder. Turned around, we were shocked to see that the building was it looked like there was a shock wave ripping through the building, and the windows all busted out, and it was horrifying. And then about a second later, the bottom floor caves out, and the building followed after that, and we saw the building crash down all the way to the ground.
A sound of a clap of thunder, a shock wave ripping through the building, windows busting out, and then the building coming down. This is Kevin McPadden, former Air Force medic, and he is doing triage at the building, and he was moved out like the others because they were told the building is going to come down. Here's what he hears before the building comes down.
You heard explosions, like boom. It has like a distinct sound. It's not like when in compression, like boom, 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 like floors that were dropping and collapsing. This was boom, and like you felt a rumble in the ground, like almost like you wanted to grab onto something. That, to me, I knew that was an explosion. There was no doubt in my mind.
And here is Bill Rosati, who saw something different.
I'm going to call in Bill Rosati. He was here when it all happened. He saw it for himself. Bill, if you can just tell us what you saw, what you heard.
I was standing like 2 blocks away, and all of a sudden I just seen a big flash, and then I seen the building coming down, and I just seen people just running everywhere, chaotic like.
Flashes of light. And this is Barry Jennings of the housing department, who, along with Mayor Giuliani's attorney, Michael Hess, were called to a meeting, an emergency meeting, because planes had hit the towers. And they didn't realize the building had been evacuated because they got there late. And they made their way up to the 23rd floor where the emergency operations center was. And this is their experience trying to get out of the building.
When we got to the 8th floor, I started walking to one side of the building. That side of the building was gone. The first explosion I heard when I was on the stairwell landing, when we made it down to the 6th floor. Then we made it back to the 8th floor. I heard some more explosions. You know,
What's the sound?
like a boom, like an explosion.
And more than one?
Yes. We started walking down the stairs. We made it to the 8th floor. Big explosion. Blew us back into the 8th floor. When we get outside, a police officer comes to me and says, you have to run. We have more information of bombs, so you have to run.
Explosions like this heard in the late morning of 9/11 in the vicinity of Building 7?
Yeah, here's one of the guys who can tell you I'm okay, all right? Here, hold on. You want to call your mother or something?
Okay, so not one of those witnesses of explosions, and there are many more, and they appear in our ongoing docuseries 9/11 Crime Scene to Courtroom. We produced the first 3 episodes, and it's ongoing. We got a dozen left to do. What do the experts say? There's 36 structural engineers among the 3,600 architects and engineers signed on to the petition demanding a new investigation, like Kamal Obaid, of the chairman of the Architects and Engineers for 9/11 Truth, who says a localized failure in a steel frame building like World Trade Center 7 cannot cause a catastrophic collapse like a house of cards without a simultaneous and patterned loss of several of its columns at key locations within the building. Does that sound like something that fires can accomplish? No, and that caught the attention of the University of Alaska's Leroy Halsey, professor, chairperson of the civil engineering department, one of the top forensic structural engineers in the country at the University of Alaska in Fairbanks. And he and his team of PhD candidates embark on a 4-year study, a finite element analysis, the analysis that NIST was tasked to do by Congress, but failed significantly. And they produce 2 competing software programs, much more sophisticated than NIST had access to because of the time difference in the software development. And they found that columns 79, 80, and 81, if they did fail, surprise, surprise, they would have fallen over the path of least resistance, the damaged part. Well, interesting. They say to themselves, how do I get this building to fall exactly like the video, like it did in reality? They have to take out all the columns. So that's what you see here, driving the building down to the ground symmetrically, smoothly, suddenly at free fall acceleration. Compare that to NIST's computer model, where they try to release 400 structural steel connections, which is not a natural thing, every second. But still, their computer model begins to bind and buckle and warp like a beer can, crushing, and it begins to tip over to the right. So they stop it after just 2 seconds into its global failure. And so what are their essential findings at the University of Alaska? Fire did not cause the collapse of this building. This came out in 2009. Temperatures were not high enough to cause the weakening of the steel framing. Thermal expansion did not result in a loss of support for the beams and girders. The collapse of this building was a global failure involving what? The near simultaneous failure of all the columns in the building. Not a progressive collapse, as claimed by NIST. So this report has gone out through engineering circles and it's creating quite a stir. And as you can imagine, they've proven that fire didn't bring this building down. So what did? Well, we have to look a little deeper into the evidence. And fortunately, it's provided to us in the form of all of this extreme heat, which FEMA originally reported on in a metallurgical examination in their final building performance assessment team report, an examination of the steel. And what do they find in this Appendix C of their report? May of 2002, never before observed eutectic reactions, intergranular melting, capable of turning a solid steel girder into Swiss cheese, like you see in this piece of World Trade Center 7 steel and this piece of the Twin Towers steel. Well, wait a minute. Fire doesn't melt steel in office fire conditions. What could be doing this? That's the big question here. They don't answer it, but they document further rapid oxidation and sulfidation. Liquid iron, that's molten iron. We're talking 3,000 degrees, Clayton, 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit, for which there is no accounting whatsoever in the official narrative, which is why they acknowledge none of this molten material evidence that we're looking at here. And there's a lot more examples. Sulfur formed, they say, during this hot corrosion attack on the steel. Well, where did the sulfur come from? NIST speculates, well, maybe it came from the gypsum board. Well, wait a minute. Gypsum board's been used for 100 years to protect steel from fires. It's never turned around and attacked the steel that it's designed to protect. So the New York Times gets involved in this, and they call this perhaps the deepest mystery uncovered in the investigation, but it's ignored by NIST. And so the steel members in the debris pile appear to have been partly evaporated. Says who? Johnathon Barnett, fire protection engineer, the FEMA report author. Wait a minute. Evaporated steel, that takes 4,000 degrees to evaporate steel.
I think like the Man of Steel, you're going to evaporate steel? How is that even possible?
Yep. Well, I'm going to show you how it's possible, because we have the evidence of what can evaporate steel right there before our very eyes, provided to us by our great institutions like the U.S. Geological Survey, and in this case, FEMA. I mean, here in this picture of the molten steel or iron pouring out of the material held in the crab claw excavator, we have the evidence of the temperatures we're looking at, because you can tell by the color of molten steel or iron what its temperature is. We're exceeding 2,500 degrees, and with a white hot up to 3,000 degrees. Well, office fires only get to be the extreme worst, half of those temperatures, typically 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit. In the worst case fires, they used computer modeling. They model them at 1,830 degrees when they test materials, assemblies for fire resistance in buildings. And this engineering firm says even jet fuel, ME Petroleum, says that it burns at 600 degrees Fahrenheit in open air. So nothing in the official narrative can explain any of these multiple examples of extreme temperatures. But thermite can. What is thermite anyway?
An incendiary used by the military, thermite is a compound of iron oxide and aluminum, which when ignited sustains an extreme heat reaction, creating molten iron. In just 2 seconds, thermite can reach temperatures over 4,500 degrees Fahrenheit, quite enough to liquefy steel. We know that open-air fires cannot burn hot enough to melt steel, but metal had melted at the base of the towers. Appendix C of the FEMA report describes sulfur residues on the World Trade Center steel. The New York Times called this the deepest mystery of all. Sulfur slightly lowers the melting point of iron, and iron oxide and iron sulfide had formed on the surface of the structural steel. sulfur used with thermite is called thermate, producing even faster results.
So we look at the U.S. Geological Survey, who actually did a report on all of the dust samples, thousands of them, that they collected and analyzed. And we have here in 2005, the U.S. Geological Survey documenting what? Billions of previously molten, that's exceeding, again, 3,000 degrees, iron. We haven't used iron in our skyscrapers for 100 years. Microspheres. How in the world do we get those in all of these dust samples? Previously molten iron. So where's the iron coming from? Iron's a byproduct of thermite, as you saw, because thermite explains all of these phenomena that we're seeing here, including microspheres, because when you explosively aerosolize liquids like molten iron, they're going to turn into spheres by surface tension. Even the EPA says that there's so many of these, they're ubiquitous, they're everywhere. We don't know what caused them, but they're used as a signature component. In other words, it's not even World Trade Center dust unless it has all of these previously molten iron microspheres in it that we don't even know where they could have come from. But up to 6% of these samples are just that. We're talking about 4 tons of material by extrapolation in all the World Trade Center dust. Where is that coming from? RJ Lee Group, an environmental consulting firm internationally, they said, we don't know where they came from, but they're formed during the event, not before by the.
All right, I just want to get this out there real quick. Any of you freelance journalists out there or people wanting to do commercials on Your News Arizona, contact me, 928-385-4738. We are live on Q Broadcast Channel 24. So if you guys want your commercials getting out there, or any of you freelance journalists interested in broadcasting on our channel, give us a call. Again, that number is 928-385-4738. And we'll interview you and see about bringing you on our channel and giving you some airtime. So we own this channel 24 hours a day. So if you guys want to be a part of it, give me a call. Or you can email me at yournewsarizona@gmail.com. So I'm going to get back to the live footage here.
Iron workers putting the building together, not afterward by the iron workers taking the building apart, but during the event. This is a proof of the melting of iron. Again, nothing in the official narrative can do this, but we can find out what can. We already know thermite does. Let's do an experiment. Clayton, experiment is the arbiter of competing hypotheses. Let's do one. Here we're lighting some thermite. What do we see? Thousands of what look like sparks. They cool. They fall into the pan. They're not sparks. They're liquid molten iron microspheres that become previously molten iron microspheres. All of this is evidence of ignited thermite. It can only be that. There's no other possible explanation in the panoply of excuses provided by NIST, and mostly just not looking at it at all. So we have to ask ourselves, is there any evidence of unignited thermite in the World Trade Center dust? Yeah. A team of 8 international scientists led by Niels Harrit in Copenhagen analyzed 7 independently collected samples throughout the World Trade Center, some of them as far away as the Brooklyn Bridge. In addition to the molten iron microspheres, they find these curious red-gray chips, red on one side, gray on the other, indicating that they were applied with a fluid. So they get real curious because unlike primer paint, which these look like, they are attracted by a magnet. So they have a high iron content. Oh, they get real curious now. They do X-ray energy dispersive spectroscopy on the red layer, and they find aluminum and iron, the ingredients of thermite, all these red gray chips in the World Trade Center dust. And then they get real curious. They get out their electron microscope in the lab and they zoom in 50,000 times. And what do they find? Iron oxide crystals and aluminum platelets at the nanoscale, 1,000 times smaller than the diameter of a human hair. This is very high-tech stuff. In fact, it's set in a matrix, a bed of oxygen, silica, and carbon, organic material. Organic material is used in high-energy explosives like TNT, RDX. They expand rapidly and knock things over. That's how explosives work. Whereas incendiaries work by massive heat, burning things up. So they go, whoa, this is a huge problem. Let's find out where this stuff came from. Well, they do a look through the peer-reviewed literature. They find that Lawrence Livermore Lab and Los Alamos Lab did reviews on this before 2001, peer-reviewed studies. They call it super thermite. Pyrotechnic and explosive composites, they say, based on thermite reactions, whose fuel and oxidizer constituents are intimately mixed on the nanometer size scale. This is what they found in the World Trade Center dust. Also, you see, when they get these down so small, 1,000 times smaller than the diameter of a human hair, the surface volume increases exponentially. So you get an instantaneous chemical reaction. So they appear to have engineered incendiaries to become more explosive, which is very interesting because that's exactly what they do in the peer-reviewed literature from Lawrence Livermore Lab at about 850 degrees Fahrenheit. They ignite and very interestingly produce a lot of energy, proving that they're exothermic reactions. Well, that's exactly what the independently collected samples did. These produced the same spike of an exothermic reaction at 800 degrees, proving that it's thermitic. Well, this is not paint. Paint doesn't have these exotic properties. And what do you think happened when they ignite? What do they produce? Molten iron microspheres with the same chemical signature as the molten iron microspheres found and produced and analyzed by R.J. Lee and the USGS. So we know exactly where those previously molten iron microspheres came from. They came from these red-gray chips. As if we didn't know, they're found attached to partially ignited red-gray chips, as you see here and here. So this is a very sophisticated process. This is not made in a cave in Afghanistan. This is made only in the most advanced defense contracting laboratories. In fact, they conclude that in their 25-page peer-reviewed paper in the Bentham Open Chemical Physics Journal in 2009, that the red layer is active, unreacted thermitic material incorporating nanotechnology and is a highly energetic pyrotechnic or explosive material. This paper has gone to every member of Congress and every member of the main members of the media, the national media. We have gotten it out everywhere. Every architect and engineer has this. We have done our work over the last 18 years, beginning with architects and engineers for 9/11 Truth, because we have the 10 key characteristic features here of controlled demolition with incendiaries. None of these features can be accomplished by fire, or in the case of the Twin Towers, which this extreme heat evidence also applies to directly, let alone all of them. See, all of this evidence has to be explained away, but they don't touch it. They won't touch it. But when they do, they find out that it's true, and they can't afford that for us to look at that possibility and see what really happened here. with additional circumstantial evidence and corroborative testimony. This becomes proof of controlled demolition, a body of proof that's convinced 3,600 architects and engineers to sign on to the petition demanding a new investigation. You can see those architects and engineers at richardgage911.org. You can see them at ae911truth.org, where they are housed. And many of them appear in our forthcoming docuseries that I mentioned, along with Mick Harrison and I. He is the litigation director for the Lawyers Committee for 9/11 Inquiry. And we've spent 4 years filming and putting out these episodes, 9/11 Crime Scene to Courtroom, an unprecedented film series taking the hard evidence of 9/11 crimes to court, because we packaged, along with the testimony from these first responders, we brought alive the 60 exhibits that have already been provided to the U.S. Attorney in Southern District of Manhattan. This series is essential for getting a real grand jury investigation. We're presenting this in a boardroom to a grand jury, and it will be packaged specifically for them. In fact, it won't just have Building 7 evidence, but the Twin Towers, because we got to ask ourselves a question here, Clayton. If Building 7 was brought down by controlled demolition, and we have just proved that it was, then we have to ask ourselves, is it possible that the Twin Towers were also a form of controlled demolition? And we're going to prove that they were as well right now. I mean, just look at them coming down simultaneously. They were in reality 15 minutes apart, but here you can see the identicality of these collapses. Even though you have asymmetrical plane impacts and fires, the structures themselves were similar, identical, but what we see is upward, outward, arching streamers, a geometry of fireworks, freely flying structural steel sections ejected laterally, clocked by physicists at 80 miles an hour, landing up to 600 feet in every direction, trailed by thick white smoke clouds. Wait a minute. Steel is not flammable in office fire conditions. Why are every one of these steel sections trailing thick white smoke clouds? Well, it turns out that the other byproduct, in addition to molten iron, of thermite is aluminum oxide ash. And in this example of lighted thermite, you see exactly that. The aluminum oxide ash, because thermite's composed of iron oxide and aluminum. The oxygen jumps in the chemical reaction from the iron oxide to the aluminum, producing these thick white smoke clouds from the ends of the beams, which were burned with thermite, obviously. Each one of these is an independent proof. But we're going to look at this and take the Twin Towers step by step, starting with feature number 1. Again, is there a sudden onset of destruction? Well, looking at the North Tower, yes, it's at rest, and all of a sudden, it's suddenly in uniform downward motion. There's no jolt, no hesitation upon impact of the cold, hard steel below. Same thing with the South Tower. It's standing at rest, and all of a sudden, it's in uniform downward motion. And there is no stoppage of the downward motion, no hesitation when it meets that steel below. We're told that the upper part drove the rest of the building down to the ground and then destroyed itself. But look at the lower red line at the point of plane impacts. In the North Tower, do we see the upper part intact and driving the rest of the building down to the ground? No. We see that it's telescoping in on itself. It's being destroyed in the first 3 seconds. It's gone. If it were there driving the rest of the building down to the ground, we would see it on the top. But none of the photos, none of the videos show an upper part driving the rest of the building down to the ground after 3 seconds. It's gone. If it were there, it would have crushed these few remaining core columns standing 800 feet in the air for 6 seconds. until they receive an explosion lower down, which shakes the concrete powder off of them, and it descends frame by frame right through. So it wasn't destroyed by an upper part. Let's compare Building 1, the North Tower, to a volcanic eruption in this case. I'll tell you which one is which in a minute. You can hardly tell the difference, though. Again, upward, outward, arching streamers, a geometry of fireworks, freely flying, solid, molten objects, trailed by thick white smoke clouds. That's what molten objects do. Buildings that are falling in gravity don't do that. Yes, the volcanic eruption is on the right, and the North Tower on the left. So we jump to the next feature. Is there patterned explosions and flashes of light that give away what's really going on here at the Twin Towers? Well, the fire commissioner of New York, Thomas von Essen, recorded hundreds of his first responders. And we didn't get this material, these transcripts, until like August of 2005. And when we finally did, we realized that Professor Graham McQueen had locked himself in his den and read every one of them, all 12,000 pages. Well, what did they contain? Why was the city hiding this? They would still be hidden if it weren't for the New York Court State of Appeals that overturned the FOIA request and required the city to give this material to the New York Times, who published it. It's on their website. Let's look at a few of them. We felt the ground shake. You could see the tower sway, and then it just came down. Again and again, you're going to hear this very specific order of events. They're hearing something, they're seeing something, they're feeling something before the towers come down. This evidence cannot be explained away. All of a sudden, the ground just started shaking. Felt like a train running under my feet. The next thing we know, we look up and the tower is collapsing. These are all firefighters, EMTs, fire chiefs. It shook my bones. Shortly before the first tower came down, I remember feeling the ground, heard a terrible noise, and then debris just started flying everywhere. I saw flash, flash, flash at the lower level of the building. You know, like when they demolish a building, saw a number of brief light sources being emitted from inside the building between floors 10 and 15. That's low down, way low down in the building. He saw about 6 of these brief flashes, accompanied by a crackling sound before the tower collapsed. I saw low-level flashes. I saw flash, 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 and then it looked like the building came down, says Stephen Gregory, Assistant Fire Commissioner. An explosion appeared at the top simultaneously from all 4 sides. Material shot out horizontally. And then there seemed to be a momentary delay before you could see the beginning of the collapse. How specific does this fire chief, Frank Crothers, need to be before we get it? There was an explosion in the South Tower, one floor under another. When it hit about the 5th floor, I figured it was a bomb because it looked like a synchronized, deliberate kind of thing. There are 156 of these quotes. I don't have time to read them all to you, but you can see them all on the website. We got to now look at feature number 3. Is there a straight down progression of destruction? Well, at first, the South Tower begins to tip to the left, as you see. In fact, it's tipping at 20 degrees off center. So we have asymmetrical loading on the structure below. Asymmetrical damage from the planes, the broken columns, asymmetrical damage from the fires. How in the world then do we get complete symmetrical collapse, just like the firefighters described, all the way down each face of the building, like a belt, one of them says, all the way around the building? It makes no sense. It's a complete non sequitur. Let's zoom in on the leading corner of those explosions in this looped video. What are we looking at? Individual explosions, floor by floor, every 3rd floor. They This is not a nuclear weapon going off, has been hypothesized by some. It's not weakening of the steel or turning it to dust like the directed energy weapons enthusiasts like to suggest. These can only be pre-placed explosives in the outside structure of the building. And so we have to ask ourselves, what is happening with these isolated explosives? 20, 40, even 60 stories down below the zone of destruction, which we're told is a gravitational collapse, we have these explosive, isolated ejections occurring at 160 to 200 miles per hour. These are explosive speeds, again, clocked by physicists like David Chandler. We can zoom in to the South Tower and see a dozen of these isolated explosive ejections occurring laterally out of the side of the building and essentially removing the inherent rigidity of this upper structure above the point of plane impacts, such that it doesn't act as a rigid body and rotate off the structure below and fall onto the ground in one piece. It essentially, its structure is turned to sand. And so what can do that? Well, we've already seen what can do that. Now we're seeing the proof of that, one of which is the speed at which this building comes down, at near free fall acceleration, almost as fast as a bowling ball falling out of the sky. This is clocked by physicists, in this case, David Chandler, who documents that it's 64% of free fall. That's 2/3 of free fall acceleration. It's gaining speed as it goes down. Each second, it gets faster and faster, the definition of acceleration. It's not even slowing down when it meets this cold, hard steel below. 90% of the structure had to have been removed. In other words, it wasn't crushing that structure. Again, like Building 7, that structure, 90% of it, in the case of the Twin Towers, has been removed before the structure starts to move down, thus corroborating the witnesses that heard explosions before the structure began to move down. We're talking about 47 massive core columns, halfway down, 52 inches by 22 inches. We're talking about 240 perimeter columns that you've seen. And what happens to these columns? These structural steel perimeter columns, which are embedded in all the skyscrapers all around the World Trade Center. 3 columns wide, 3 stories high, tied together by spandrel panels, 3 of them, and then erected in place and bolted together. They're thrown 600 feet away, destroying the winter gardens. There are hundreds of these that are ejected that far. You can see the ends of these, how they are bolted together, in this case with 4 bolts at the top and the bottom to each other. So by the way, that's all the plane had to do was push in these columns. It didn't cut them, as has been theorized by those who suggest that no planes hit these towers. It pushed them in, shearing off these bolts, which you see the holes of here. And so we look at the descent of these hundreds of structural steel sections freely flying out. In fact, looking here, we see the one that's going to hit World Trade Center 7. Wait a minute. Back to, forward to, back to. It's going out. How does gravity work, Clayton? Down. We're talking about something else going on here. Look closely at the thick white smoke clouds trailing this particular one. Again, steel is not flammable in office fire conditions. Why are they trailing thick white smoke clouds? There's enough energy to hurl a 200-pound cannonball 3 miles. And that's a lot of explosive energy. In fact, the canopy of destruction here and the laying on the ground of the structural steel sections is more than 1,200 feet in diameter around each of these towers, equidistant all around. You can see, in fact, Building 7 that's been damaged in its southeast, Building 7, why it would have been damaged in the southeast corner there. So we had a huge question here. If 100,000 tons of steel framing in each tower was distributed, most all of it outside the footprint of the building, how could it also be available to crush the building? It can't. This is a third of the weight of each building in just the structural steel alone, not available to crush the building. But NIST's calculations and Zdenek-Bazant's calculation used all of that weight to crush the building. Well, maybe it was the concrete, because we're looking for 110 floors, each an acre in size. We're talking about 4 and 8-inch thick concrete poured on metal decking supported by lightweight steel trusses. We're looking for 110 of those. We don't find 50. We don't find 10. We don't find 1 acre size floor at the bottom. We don't find a half acre, a quarter acre, an eighth acre, even a 16th of an acre size floor assembly. What happened to these? Well, we have a theory, but in a real pancaking collapse, like in this case, earthquakes in Mexico, and in this case, in Bangkok, Thailand, in the recent Myanmar earthquake, we had a 33-story building. We see all or most of the pancakes in a real natural collapse. Compare that to the Twin Towers. We have a 4 or 6-story pile of material. Where did the concrete go? Oh, there it is. It's being pulverized in midair. It doesn't even have time to fall and crack up on the ground as it would in a natural collapse. What could have pulverized 90,000 tons of concrete in each of these buildings? We don't have to go much farther than ASTM 6856, the American Society of Testing and Materials, which says that concrete can be powderized at 1,500 degrees. Well, what do you think can happen at 4,000 degrees? White powder decomposed hydration products back to its original gravel, sand, and cement powder. That is new information to those of us in the 9/11 Truth movement. And so we're not going to shy away from suggesting that thermite, nanothermite in particular, explains all of this evidence. And so we got another important question. If 90,000 tons of concrete is missing from each of these towers at the bottom in the pile, and spread 3-inch thick blanket from river to river across 3 square miles of lower Manhattan, how in the world is it capable of crushing the building? If it's pulverized in midair, spread throughout river to river, that's where the weight is. It didn't crush anything. This is another third of the weight of the building together with the steel. That's 2/3 of the weight of this building that's not even there to crush the building. And yet, again, Zdenek-Bazant of Northwestern University in Chicago, who today provides the key theoretical basis for NIST's column failure theory. He not only used all of that weight, he doubled the mass up above fraudulently, and he decreased the column strength below by a factor of 3. And that's what engineers like Tony Zambodi, Richard Johns, and Gregory Zudolinski finally decoded after 10 years They found fraud at every turn. So we have 8 key characteristic features and more, 10 altogether, of explosive demolition in the Twin Towers. We've already looked at the extreme heat. We find none of these can be accounted for by fire, let alone all of them. With additional circumstantial evidence and corroboration, we have proof of controlled demolition, a body of proof that's convinced, again, 3,600 architects and engineers to sign on to the petition. And many of them have appeared in our documentaries. 9/11 Explosive Evidence Experts Speak Out, where we have 40 high-rise architects, structural engineers, metallurgists, chemists, physicists, controlled demolition experts, all laying out the evidence. The 15-minute documentary just on Building 7, professionally made for PBS, narrated by actor Ed Asner, and the movie 7 by director Dylan Avery. All of this information is outlined for you. You can go to richardgage911.org and download the brochure for free. Give it to everybody. The truth about 9/11 has to be exposed and distributed. People have to wake up like I did 19 years ago now. And like Tucker has begun to very recently. And Clayton has been on this for quite a while. The truth about 9/11 is a lot darker than just buildings coming down and being exploded. This was used for a mass invasion of the Middle East through Afghanistan and Iraq, where 2 million people have been killed. 7,000 U.S. soldiers, 22 taking their own lives every day. A $6.5 trillion global war on terror that's bankrupted our country. And we're now in a surveillance state where any of us can be arrested without a right to a lawyer, a trial, a jury. We can be tortured and even assassinated. Through the Patriot Act, the Military Commissions Act, the National Defense Authorization Act of 2012. Our phone calls, our emails, our texts are systematically swept up and stored in the largest building in Utah. All completely unconstitutional. But they declared this an emergency. Watch out when they declare emergencies. You got to draw your line in the sand somewhere. Do you wait for the next 9/11? Just put your head in the sand? No. Send Clayton's podcast to every architect and engineer you can find, every media representative, everybody you know, all of your friends. People have to wake up. We're going to get more and more false flag operations like COVID, like Gaza, like we're currently seeing now in the Middle East. That's what we need you to do, is to talk about this.
Hallelujah. Incredible, Richard. Thank you so much for this. Again, the website is right there on the screen, richardgage911.org. People can share this. They can go there, download the brochure, share it with as many people as possible. I wanted to have you on and just let you go so that people could have this encapsulated into one interview where people can share this. So, Richard, thank you so much for joining us today. I think we'll leave it there. I think you put a nice button on it. Any final thoughts?
Yep. I just encourage everybody to support Redacted because they are one of the only large alternative media streams that has the courage to put this out to the American people and stand behind it. So you need to stand behind Clayton and Natalie.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you for shining a light on this incredibly dark subject. It's very difficult for so many people to focus on because, what it portends, mass surveillance state, a permanent war on terrorism, an expansion of the military-industrial complex, assassinations, targets, silencing, canceling, all of it. It's very, very dark, and people don't want to look there. So thank you for your courage in all of this and really leading the way on this, Richard. Thank you.
You're so very welcome, Clayton. Thank you.
All right, guys, we're going to be live again here this afternoon. We got several news updates we're going to share with you. We're going to have Richard Gage on our show again tomorrow night. It's going to be 7 o'clock Mountain Time, 6 Pacific. Hope you guys can tune in for that. And and then please, for all you guys out there on social media, please like, follow, and share our broadcast. Help get it out there, and definitely share what Richard Gage is doing right now and exposing the real truth on 9/11. So, all right, guys, God bless you guys. This is Jonathan Alexander reporting live with Your News Arizona, and we'll see you again this afternoon. God bless.